Hello, everybody. Welcome back along. And I, like many people probably watching, have just watched a football match. By God, it actually happened. Some people thought it would never, ever happen again. But the Bundesliga is back, and I was a first time viewer of the Bundesliga and a first time viewer of BT Sport as well. Now, in normal situations, those people familiar with my channel will know that I do painstakingly detailed reviews of championship games and those games that I've been to as well, whether it's watching from the sofa or at the game. Don't feel confident doing that really with Bundesliga. Don't know the division well enough. Don't know the players necessarily well enough and the culture of the football well enough. Hey, maybe we'll all pick it up in the next few weeks. But what I thought I would do is just give my thoughts on the return of football as a spectacle. And I thought I'd do it in a nice little pithy 10 things I learned type video. Now, notice the title of that, 10 things I learned. So it's, if you knew this already, then good for you. But put yourself in the position of many people who don't follow German football and don't subscribe to BT Sport, then you'll realise that there are plenty of people like us. And I just thought it'd be a good way to do it generally with the return to football behind closed doors. So if you want to be a know-it-all, fine. But the one thing you can't be a know-it-all on is none of us have seen any football post-COVID, because this is the first day today. So look, even those people who are knowledgeable about German football will admit that we're all in the same boat when it comes to post-lockdown football, because this is the first example. So here we go with 10 things I learned by the return of the Bundesliga, and we will do some general thoughts at the end. Number one, James Richardson. I don't listen to James Richardson on podcasts and haven't watched him on BT before. Massive fan of Football Italia from the early 90s. And the first thing I learned, maybe not learned, but was reminded of, was how brilliant a broadcaster James Richardson is. No Jeff Shreves type banter, no Keys and Grayisms, no hyperbole, no cliches, no cheesiness. He straight down the line gets the sense of the occasion in without patronising you. Yeah, excellent to watch James Richardson, and it really couldn't have been in better hands there. The second thing I learned today is that I must visit Borussia Dortmund's stadium. From time to time I'll check into Champions League stuff and see pictures of this massive, vibrant, colourful stadium. But to actually sit and, the cameras were in the, I wouldn't say backstage there, but in the tunnels before the players came out and things like that. And it just looks like an absolute glorious place to go. So if you have been, do comment on your experience. And I think I must put that on the old bucket list. The third thing I learned was John Joe Kenny plays for Schalke. That's not a big thing in and of itself, but I immediately tapped him up on Wikipedia and Google and who scored and wherever appeared first in my Google search, and it just got me thinking about players going out on loan, and Premier League clubs will loan into League One at quite a young age, and then when you've got a fairly decent player, they can go to the Championship. But it does seem a kind of, well, the top six Schalke, aren't they? But a middling German side might be a better way for the development of young Premier League players and English players, particularly with my bias as a Englishman and an England fan there. Obviously, the lower divisions in England will develop their physicality, but in terms of technical, and we see how good someone like Jadon Sancho looks. I know he's not on loan, but then maybe a few more clubs will think going forward about sending players on loan over to Germany. Number four thing I learned, the players are all in. They really are. We had a lot of outrage and Graham Souness going beetroot red on Sky TV about players turning away from tackles and having to wear masks and you're not being able to mark from corners. That was all totally overblown, wasn't it? It was the protocols for the first phase of Premier League training. I saw plenty of tackles, I saw plenty of physicality, and I saw committed players having a decent game in this game that we haven't really mentioned, have we? It was 4-0 to Dortmund over Schalke. The fifth thing I learned, which I kind of knew already, but fans really don't help referees, do they? It's very funny when you get this kind of sanitised atmosphere of no fans. The referee appears to just immediately have a level more authority than he does when he has fans, which, come on, let's be honest, I've sat in, I remember going to Wigan once and sitting in the Wigan stand, and I promised the bloke in front of me, challenged every, and I mean every, 100% without fail, every decision given against Wigan. You've got to think about the probability of him getting 100% of them wrong, maybe 30 decisions or whatever during the game. So I think that maybe something that it's just worth thinking about, and I go to a lot of games as a neutral, so I like to think that I can see referees for what they are without that bias that watching your own team has. I know some fans are capable of getting through it, but most, that's why we love football, are totally tribal. And I just felt that might be a good thing for referees if people get to see them without fans literally crapping all over every single thing they do. I know that they're used to it, but hey, doesn't happen when there's no fans in the stadium, does it? The sixth thing I learned was the noise I missed the most about the crowds. Do you know what? Probably about 15 minutes in, Dortmund got in down the right-hand side, and I realised that the noise I missed the most is not booing or chanting or the cheer for a goal, but that noise when a key pass is played and a decent-looking attack is unfolding, that big buzz and that expectation of go on, you're in. And I just wonder whether the players, in fact the silence on the one hand gives them extra clarity, or whether they actually do buzz off that expectation as they're going through, and it actually plays into what they do. It'd be interesting to hear a player talk about both. But I just missed that feeling, oh, something's about to happen, everyone, that big collective excitement together. That's one thing that we all love as fans, and I do miss that. Number seventh thing I learned, Erling Haaland. I'm aware of him, obviously I follow the football news. I know he's an international superstar, and everyone's got mapped out that he's going to score hundreds of goals in his career. He's fantastic, isn't he? He scored the opening goal in this game. Beautiful kind of cushioned half volley into the corner. And I think why it's important that Erling Haaland scored the first goal is without fans, football really needs its superstars most now, doesn't it? You really want to get behind those. I know they are just humans, but they come across larger in life and they're heroes on the pitch, and lots of people look up to them. And as the world seems to be collapsing under coronavirus, to see your heroes doing their thing on the sporting arena, it's just great. And it was a beautiful goal, that first one as well, wasn't it? Number 8, the 8th thing I learned, football Twitter. Hey, football Twitter. I flipped it up after about 10 minutes. Never changes, does it? People sat in their armchairs moaning, and I think Steve McManaman was getting the brunt of most of it. Literally anything a co-commentator says during a televised game just gets criticised. My only concern, look, it's a cesspit anyway, isn't it, football Twitter? We do get some good stuff on there, but generally people trying to trend and trying to get their tweet to go viral, either be the most acerbic or funniest person in the room, getting their tweets in there really, really quickly. But the worry is, are all the people that would have been in stadiums now going to join everybody else on the armchair now and be tweeting vitriolic things about the co-commentators? So yeah, football Twitter was alive and well today, wasn't it? Number 9 was I learned a bit about the German title race. Bayern Munich have won 7 in a row, but Borussia Dortmund's win today put them within 1 point. what would be really great, like I just said, football needs stars at the moment, and it needs entertainment. And if Germany are getting out there first, a great title race would be great in drawing everybody back in and helping us forget at the moment that there's no fans inside the stadiums. They're within 1 point. Munich still to play this weekend, and we'll see whether they do get that 8th league title in a row. And the 10th thing I learned was what I hoped I would learn, that if Germany can, then why can't the Premier League, and why can't other countries? Yes, there's lots of caveats and every country's different, but what I hope today proves, and yes, we don't know yet what the aftermath of this, and we hope all the players are going to be fine after this and everything's going to be nicely controlled, and I'm sure they'll now be tested again after the game is concluded. But hopefully this can waylay some of the posturing and some of the arguing we've had of, oh, you can't play. Well, if Germany put on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and going forward over the next few weeks, lots of games safely, and can show us the protocols and what they've done and the safety measures, then there is no reason why football cannot come back in these controlled conditions. So those are the 10 things I learned. Just generally, okay, it's weird. It's weird watching football without fans, but I'm afraid I think we need to park it's weird with it's not fair as arguments and points of view that really aren't relevant anymore. We know it's not fair that the league stopped and everyone's been disadvantaged by it, and we're trying to find ways, and it's not fair doesn't really get us anywhere anymore. And I'm afraid, sadly, with watching without fans, it's weird, or football is nothing without the fans. I agree with both, but we know the consequences of football not happening with all of those mechanisms in place financially with contracts and players' contracts. I'm afraid it's a necessary evil that if these guys can play safely in this controlled environment, then us fans, and look, I go to a ton of games, I'd be there alongside, all the people probably subscribing who love to go to games, but it's just going to have to be this way for a while, and we're just going to have to get used to it. And I'm sure there's going to be vast swathes of people who are like, oh, game's gone, and all of that sort of dribble that you'll hear, and I can't get behind this, and we shouldn't have football without fans. Well, we've heard what the we can't have football with fans, and we've heard what the consequences of football, of no football at all, would be. So I'm afraid us fans are just going to have to suck it up and applaud the efforts of these players who are to a certain extent guinea pigs, although albeit in a much more controlled environment than most of us will be going back into in our work. But we need to applaud them for getting out there and entertaining us as ever. And we just need to accept that, yeah, it's weird. And I started getting used to it as the game went on. Interesting, Dortmund doing their kind of bow thing that they do to that big stand at the end of the game without anybody there. I thought that was a nice touch. That was very kind of stiff upper lip British sort of thing to do. That of, no, we're going to carry on regardless. Everything's going to be all right. We'll get through this. I thought that was a nice message. Let me know what you think in the comments. Did any of your things you've learned from this afternoon's happenings match up with mine? And how was your experience if you were tuned in, 1, to BT Sport for the first time like I was, 2, to German football for the first time? So yes, please don't be a know-all. Yes, you will. If you know one thing about German Bundesliga, then you'll probably know more than me in the process, but we're all just following the story with a view to what's happening here. So I'd be really interested in people's comments on how they found the experience if they were watching for the first time today, or even not for the first time, just for the first time since the lockdown lift in Germany and this kind of post-COVID behind closed doors football. Let me know what you want to see on the channel with regards to Germany, because it is the only football we've got, so probably worthwhile keeping tuned to that whilst England tries to sort itself out. But hopefully them their Germans have raised a big flag to say, look, come on, we can do it if it's controlled and if it's safe, which again, fingers crossed, we hope the weekend ends in safety and no problems or no unnecessary problems or big problems. Then, this could be the start of a great thing and the start of football kind of returning the world back to normal and getting ahead of the curve on that. Let me know what you think in the comments. Follow on Twitter at Benjamin Bloom. If you are new here, hit subscribe, ring the bell, lots of football news. Maybe when football comes back, it's a championship channel again, but we'll see. We're drawing in lots of new subscribers and maybe we can add some new avenues into the channel as we go. We'll watch the numbers and we'll see what you subscribers want. Thanks for watching. See you on the next video.